Hi, Heartdwellers. This is Lisa, and Mother Elisha asked me to share a dream I had a few nights ago. So we have a garden at our house, and I dreamed that the lawnmowers came and they mowed over the whole garden. And when I came to look at it, there was no fruit left. There was only grass clippings and leaves and debris. And that really surprised me because we have several very large pumpkins growing in the yard, and they were gone. There was no trace of them. It's not like they got chopped up into little bits. They were just not there anymore. And I couldn't understand how the lawnmowers had managed to run them over. And then I thought about the potatoes because they had all got chopped off too, like the tops of them. But I was thinking, well, they grow underground. They'll be okay. They'll come back. Because potatoes do grow underground. And then I thought about the cucumbers. And my cucumbers are trellised in my yard. And they're growing straight up. And I wondered how the lawnmowers could have mowed over the trellis. And now it was quite flat. And all the fruit was gone. There were no more cucumbers. Then I checked the kids' gardens, because I had made a small garden for each of my boys, and one of my kids had grown corn in his garden, and I rummaged through all the debris and I found one of the corn stalks, and I checked it to see if there was any corn on it, and I couldn't find any corn, but oddly enough, I found some very nice squash growing at the base of it. And that was weird to me because I hadn't even planted squash. That was not something I had planted. So I harvested the squash, and then inside the corn stalk I found these seeds. And so I started collecting the seeds, and then I noticed one of the seeds was moving, and I saw that it wasn't a seed, it was a bug. So I carefully went through the seeds, and I removed any bugs. And then I woke up. That was the end of the dream. When I asked the Lord about it, because it was one of those dreams I had right before I woke up, and it was pretty vivid in my mind. And so it just felt like the Lord was trying to say something. And I didn't understand the dream when I first woke up. So first I wanted to see if the dream was from Him. In the Bible Promises book, I got faithfulness, God's faithfulness. And the verse said, "Thanks be to the Lord. He has given rest to His people, Israel. He has done all that He promised. Every word has come true, all His good promise, which He promised through His servant Moses." And when I read that, the Lord was talking in that verse about giving His people rest. The word harvest popped in my mind, and I asked the Lord if this dream was about the harvest of souls, and I got, in the Bible Promises book, love, God's love, with the verse, "He will love you and bring good to you, and make you a nation of many. He will bring good to your children, and the fruit of your land, your grain, your new wine, and your oil. And He will give you many cattle and young ones in your flock, in the land He promised to your fathers to give you." And so that's talking about fruit, and I still wasn't exactly sure what the dream means, but I had some thoughts about it. First, I was thinking about the potatoes being underground, and I thought of the underground church, and I thought of the faithful ones that He's keeping hidden, and I thought about those who are called to stay behind in the tribulation. And in my dream, when I looked over at the potatoes, even though the lawnmowers had come and mowed everything over and it was like flat, when I looked over at the potatoes, they had already started to sprout new growth on the top, and I could see that they were growing. And then I was thinking about the cucumbers, which grow up a trellis, and they're tall. And the verse came to mind, 2 Corinthians 10:4-6. "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captive every thought to the obedience of Christ, and being in readiness to avenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled." I kind of felt like the cucumbers represent, I guess, impurity in the church and pride and arrogance and false teachings and all of the sins that lead men astray, and people who are in positions of authority who are leading God's people astray and not being good shepherds. Because in real life, my cucumbers, they were doing really well, and they made a lot of cucumbers at like late spring, early summer. I was getting a lot of cucumbers. But then when the summer heat hit, they got hit with powdery mildew, and all of the leaves just got diseased, and like all my cucumber plants were diseased and they were dying, and they had a lot of fruit on them from what they had grown before they got sick, but they were like sickly and not doing so well. And I just felt like that has to do with corruption that God is going to purify when he brings tribulation on the earth, you know. And the other verse that came to mind about the cucumbers, about them being tall and now they were leveled, was the verse, "Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain." And that's in reference to making way for the Lord's coming. And the seed that I found, I thought of regeneration after the purification, and I was getting bugs out of the seeds so that they would be pure. And I just thought of the purification, Jesus purifying the world through the tribulation that comes on the earth and through our own individual tribulations, that God is working everything to good, and that it's not going to be the end, you know, when the tribulation happens. It's going to be the purification so that Jesus can come and rule and reign on this earth and make everything right. And then when I harvested the squash that I did not plant, well, first of all, Mother Elisha was thinking of the verse where we have reaped where we did not sow and harvested where we did not plant. There's a verse about that in the Bible. I didn't look it up. Maybe I should. Hold on. So that's from John chapter 4, verses 37 to 39, or 38 specifically. "Thus the saying, one sows and another reaps, is true. I sent you to reap what you have not worked for. Others have done the hard work, and you have reaped the benefits of their labor." So that verse came to mind because God has prepared all of these souls, and they are ripe for harvest. And then when the tribulation happens, they're just going to fall from the trees, and he wants us to catch them as they're falling and gather in the fruit. We're supposed to be gathering souls to Jesus and bringing people to Jesus so that he can gather in all the fruit and souls can be saved. So while we're still on this earth, all the tribulation that happens right before Jesus comes, we need to be really aware of the souls that he's bringing to us, that he wants us to minister to, that he wants us to bless with his love and bring them to Jesus. So that's what I was thinking of when I thought of the squash that I was harvesting that I hadn't even planted. And then also, I mean, I guess it kind of felt like a rapture dream too, because it's talking about the harvest of souls. And when Jesus comes and takes us in the rapture, he's going to be harvesting all the souls that are ready to go with him to heaven. So those are my thoughts in that dream, and Mother Elisha thought it would be a blessing to you guys.